Assalamu alaikum, my dear colleagues. Thank you very much, the management committee of this virtual hybrid conference, to invite me here for this talk. So, today I will speak on the gray zone of histopathology, where we need to make some surgical decisions to proceed. And sometimes there is a dilemma, sometimes there is a neglect with disastrous consequences for the patient. So, objectives of my talk are that we know what are the B3 lesions and how come we've got into this classification of things. What are the types and what's the importance of knowing about them and how to manage them, with a touch of like local factors affecting our decision making, and if we can work towards a future recommendation in our country. So when we see histopathologically the results of core needle biopsies, B1 to B5 is the general classification. And B3 are basically heterogeneous groups of lesions which are of uncertain malignant potential. And this classification, basically, as you can see, is that at one end of the spectrum, you have a definite malignant, and as B1, you have the normal tissue, B2 being benign. B4 is almost malignancy, but there are some sort of artifacts or poor fixation in things so that they are not really commenting on the details of things. But B3 lesions come in the middle. And it's not just one type of lesion, it's like a heterogeneous group. And this classification came into being because with the screening programs in place in the Western Europe and the USA, a lot of patients who had core needle biopsies did not have a definitive benign or malignant diagnosis. And then on later excision of the lesions, it was found that some of these lesions harbored malignancy, some were associated with other potential changes in it. So basically, now we know that there can be two types of B3 lesions. Sometimes you have like precursor lesions, and sometimes you have lesions with the risk of associated malignancy. So precursor lesions are like flat epithelial atypia and atypical intraductal epithelial proliferation, which was previously called atypical ductal hyperplasia. Lobular in situ neoplasia are lobular carcinoma in situ and atypical lobular hyperplasia. Then there are lesions with associated malignancy risk. For example, papillary lesions and radial scars and complex sclerosing lesions. Then we have certain group of B3 lesions which come under the domain of columnar cell change. And this is the most common histopathology seen when in a screening program microcalcifications are biopsied. This may be associated with atypia or without atypia. So the less common ones are mucocele-like lesions, apocrine atypia, fibroblastomas, vascular lesions, and bland spindle cell lesions. I'm missing one in here, but that is the fibroepithelial lesion, and we will touch that later. So the importance of the B3 lesions are that in a screening program, they found in multi-center sort of data that there was like 4 to 11% of all core needle biopsies came back as B3 lesions. And on subsequent excision or further vacuum assisted excision, it was found that there was an upgradation to malignancy in 4 to 40%. Now, this is very high and very alarming. So in Pakistan, we do need a screening program. So it is extremely important that we anticipate that this is going to happen, and we need to have some guidelines to basically counter that. But because we do not have a screening program, most of the patients that we see with B3 lesions are basically patients who come as symptomatic patients. And it could be a clinical lump or a hard area. It could be voluntary screening. Sometimes there is like an image detected lesion for some other breast symptom, for example, myalgia. Um, there can be an incidentaloma, for example, like somebody had a CT scan of the chest to look at the lungs and a breast lump was found. So these are more common in our setup because we do not have a definite screening program in place. So the importance is that now, what do we do next? If we get a histopathology of B3, so we have four ways of dealing with it. Either we repeat the core needle biopsy, or we do a surgical excision of the B3 lesion. We can, in some centers, do vacuum assisted biopsy or excision, or we can have a follow up or close follow up. Now, in Germany, they in their screening program, they looked at the data and they found that the most common of the B3 lesion was a flat, was the atypical ductal hyperplasia and flat epithelial atypia. And these harbored really a high chance of malignancy within them on subsequent excision. If you look at the atypical ductal hyperplasia, look at it's almost 40. So 40% risk of um, that there is like cancer within it. So the least dangerous ones were the lobular neoplasia, but papillary lesions also had something, and radial scars also had like a 16.6% chance. So we need to, once we look at these sort of biopsy histopathological diagnosis, now it is important that we also discuss these patients in a multidisciplinary team based environment, because number one, there can be like the different lesions with the different potential. So it's not because it's a heterogeneous group, it's not just one type. And then there can be different clinical presentations and parameters, for example, age of the patient, family history, findings, clinical findings. They also need to look into whether there's adequacy of representation of the lesion in the histopathological sample. So management guidelines at the moment, which are in place, um, are basically in the Western Europe and the US. There was the first international consensus conference on lesions of uncertain malignant potential in Switzerland, and most lesions were basically managed by vacuum assisted biopsy. Only phyllodes tumor and atypical ductal hyperplasia was excised surgically. And this was again endorsed in the second consensus meeting in 2018. In UK, all B3 lesions except for papillomas with atypia, spindle cell lesions, and the fibroepithelial lesions, which I was going to concern, especially if there's a fibroepithelial lesion with atypia. All should be managed with vacuum assisted excision rather than surgery. Swiss guidelines basically all ADH and phyllodes tumors should go for surgical excision, and rest can be managed with vacuum assisted excision. So basically, when we make a decision in our scenario, mostly it's a palpable lump. So we don't know whether the patient is going to have surveillance or not. So we need to also account for that. We need to make sure that if we are going for a close follow-up, the patient is actually going to comply and has the means to do so. The other things that we look at are the size of the lesion, family history, other risk factors, age of the patient, and remember to read the full histopathological report. Because atypia is a dangerous word, and sometimes it really alarms us and it guides us to actually make a decision of removing the lesion. If you read the conclusion of the histopathology only, sometimes atypia is not written. If you read the full report, occasionally you would see that there's a discrepancy and you will have it in the detailed thing, but in the conclusion, atypia is missing. So always read the full report. The second thing is atypia is not always associated with malignancy, or it can be associated with infection, and it can be seen in a lot of benign lesions during pregnancy and lactation. So when we looked at our data at Ittefaq Hospital, most patients were, a vast majority were clinically palpable lesions. And 5% of all my core needle biopsies had B3 lesion of some sort. What I do is that without atypia, if it's an impalpable lesion, I have a close surveillance. If it starts increasing in size, then we biopsy it. Otherwise, we leave it alone. In the papillary, if it's a papillary, whether there is atypia or no atypia, always surgically excise it. If it's too small, then we use either ultrasound marking or wire localization to remove it. If it's a palpable lesion, I'm at the moment mostly surgically excising, but I'm looking more towards like the vacuum assisted excision if our institutions can provide us with the right equipment. For clinically suspicious and especially lesions which are larger than 2 centimeter, if my clinical suspicion is high, then I would basically repeat multiple cores before surgical excision. And sometimes there is like an upgradation on that too. So the future recommendation to me are like that we need to turn towards vacuum assisted biopsy and excision because it gives a larger specimen and it's easier not to miss something. It needs easier to look at atypia and other hidden malignancy that it can harbor. It can just be curative if we can excise it, reducing the theater time, overall cost to the patient, and it is patient friendly in good hands. And both surgeons and radiologists can use this or learn to use this. And the summary is that core needle biopsies, if you look at the global figures, and if you look at both the symptomatic or screening patients, almost up to a quarter, about 20% will be like B3 lesions. And there's a 4 to 20% upgrade on excision or vacuum assisted biopsies. So we need local guidelines, we need local screening programs, and we need to train and adopt towards vacuum assisted biopsy techniques. Thank you very much for your attention.